Alone among God's primates, he kills for sport, or lust, or greed. Yea, he will murder his brother to possess his brother's land. Let him not breed in great numbers, for he will make a desert of his home and yours.
I wanted to deal with our relationship with the people of the world and the fact that, friends, you have had no friends. When they discovered you, they began to prey on you. Now let's look at our relationship with Western Asia, mistakenly called the Middle East. For 3,000 years, our greatest enemies came from Western Asia. They were trying to avenge the fact that they were once African colonies. You read a book called When Egypt Ruled the East, and you get some of the basic information on this. Now,
but famine from Western Asia is going to cause migrations from Western Asia. And a people is going to come in from Western Asia called Hebrews, later called Jews. Africans are going to feed them, save them from famine.
This is off the walls of Kemet. Semitics coming into Egypt. And you can see what they doing. They messing with them damn goats. That's what they were. They were goat herders. So that's what they do. And that's the original right there. Canoe Hotel. Showing them coming in. Messing with them damn goats and antelopes.
The first visitors to Africa came in the 1700s BC. These were the people who would later be called Hebrews. Now, black people are ticklish on this because black people think that everything in the Bible is true. I question the intelligence of anyone who thinks everything in the Bible is true or supposed to be true. It's allegory, stories told to illustrate a point at a time when there were very few people reading books. And most of what went into the making of the Bible was copied from Egyptian texts. Now, if you want to get so dewy-eyed over the Bible, which is a carbon copy of a carbon copy, why don't you go back and read the original Egyptian text? Then you see where all these stories started from. You see where the story of the Exodus started from. Now, you get so dewy-eyed, you actually think there was an Exodus. These people walked into Africa. Why couldn't they walk out? Why did they have to go by sea? Let's get into this Western Asia. I'm saying that the people who came from Western Asia escaping famine did not have any Hebrew faith when they came into Africa. And there's no record of a Hebrew faith before theirs. Why is it that when they left Africa in the so-called Exodus, they had all three? African culture, an African religion, and an African language. Now look at the origin of the so-called people you now refer to as Jews. And you're mistaken using that reference because the word Jew is of European origin. And the people in Europe who call themselves by their name have no relationship to the biblical people of the Hebrew faith.
The Bible story of the Hebrew Jews begins with Abram, who was born north of Canaan in the town of Ur around 2055 BC. Abram married his beautiful sister Sarai and migrated to Egypt. There is not one shred of archaeological evidence for the existence of Moses or of any of the Bible's main cast of Hebrew characters, from Abraham to Jacob to Joseph to King David to King Solomon. There is, however, plenty of evidence for the existence of Egyptian pharaohs.
1680 BC, bunch of sheep herders going to invade Africa, called the Shepherd Kings later. The Hebrews that the Africans saved from famine, gave jobs to, befriended, instead of joining the Africans against the invaders from the east, they joined the invaders from the east, became collaborators and clerks for the new rulers of Egypt.
In the 17th century, century BC, the ancient kingdom of Egypt was suddenly overthrown.
They burned our cities ruthlessly, razed to the ground the temples of the gods, and treated all the natives with cruel hostility.
The Hyksos, a Middle Eastern tribe who had settled among the Egyptians 100 years before, rose against their hosts. Exploiting the death of the pharaoh, they seized power. Egyptian nobles chafed under the Hyksos rule. They looked with scorn upon these intruders who dressed ostentatiously, spoke their language with a strange accent, and dishonored their gods.
1700 BCE, Hyksos ruled Egypt. This is when the Bedouin kings, shepherds, came up out of the country of Mauritania, which is right around where Syria is today, Lebanon. They came and they attacked Egypt. And they ruled in Egypt from 1700 BCE to around 1550 BCE.
This Hebrew migration into Egypt closely parallels Egyptian history when the Semitic Hyksos migrants overthrew the Egyptian pharaohs and seized the throne of Egypt. The Semitic Hyksos kings ruled Egypt for over 100 years.
These were the Asiatics that you see right here. Now, as I mentioned before, the Asiatics who came across the Sinai. So here we see the earliest recording of these people who came in and settled with us for a while, till they built in numbers, and then eventually attacking Egypt. This is again from Khnumhotep's tomb from the 12th dynastic period, right during the time of Amenhotep III.
In 1560 BC, Egypt was in crisis. For the first time in history, the kingdom of the ancient pyramid builders was now occupied and divided. Egypt was on the verge of extinction. In the north, a foreign king had invaded and declared himself Pharaoh. His people, the Hyksos, now occupied the rich Nile Delta. To the south, the warlike Nubian.
The invasion of the Hyksos to Egypt was really a shock, a surprise, because this is the first time that Egypt was completely invaded. This is the first time that a strange people entered in Egypt and lived for 150 years.
Jacob marries two of his girl cousins and fathers 12 sons. As Jacob ages, Joseph becomes his favorite son, and Dan becomes his venomous son. Jacob eventually takes his sons and his Hebrew clan and migrates from Canaan into Egypt.
Look down here, Jacob took his family to Egypt 1701. They don't tell you that they came into Egypt when Egypt had been attacked, that Jacob, the Hebrews, came out of the same area where the shepherd kings came from, and that's how they got privileges in Egypt.
And when Africa was invaded, 1675 BC, instead of joining the Africans who had been their beneficiary and saved them from starvation, they joined the enemies of Africa. No one has ever returned any favors to us. As a people, we have always been hospitable to strangers, mostly the wrong strangers.
The Egyptian people rebelled against these Semitic kings and pushed them into northern Egypt.
The Egyptian pharaoh vowed to reclaim his country. Out of the desert sprang an army of warriors, burning with vengeance. No Egyptian was more outraged than the pharaoh Kamos. Kamos did grapple with the Hyksos, but his wish was not fulfilled.
One local family was determined to revive Egypt's former glory. The king of Thebes and his two sons, the young princes Kamos and his brother Akhmos. The fate not only of their capital Thebes, but Egypt itself, lay in their hands.
Essentially, it was a time of great trial for the traditional ruling family of Egypt. There was a feeling that Egypt, as it had been known for the past 1,500 years, could cease to exist.